Hey, what's up? I'm Channel Pup Fanboy Supervillain, and today I'm whipping up a fun new video just for you. Every Sonic fan is always talking about this. It is a matter of extreme curiosity among the Sonic fan base. We're going to be talking about the possibility of Sonic Adventure remakes, how likely they are to happen, different approaches they could take to Sonic Adventure remakes, and whether or not we really need them. So sit back, relax, subscribe, and Patreon link is in the description below, very appreciated. Onwards with the video. So during a recent interview with Shaq News, Takashi Iizuka said that he would be interested in remastering Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. But these projects would be later in the pipeline and much larger undertakings than, say, the Sonic Generations remaster because of the age of the games and how differently game design works now. These were made with very different sensibilities, which would kind of defeat the purpose of Sega's current business model when it comes to making Sonic remasters. The idea is that these are supposed to be just quick projects to kind of tide us over between releases, so a Sonic Adventure remaster or remake would have to be kind of a much bigger job. So it could happen, maybe it will happen someday, but it's not going to be anytime soon. If you're coming to this video for news about Sonic Adventure remakes, yeah, there's kind of a nothing burger, but what comes next is where the real meat is. Because this prompted me to really put some thought into what the right way to go about making a Sonic Adventure revival would be. Should it be a fully blown remake or just kind of a remaster with touch-ups? Funny enough, both of these games have technically already had remasters from Dreamcast to GameCube. However, from a technical standpoint, the GameCube versions pale in comparison, despite adding more content, so it kind of seemed to be the trade-off is more content but worse overall visuals. It's mainly in things like the lighting, and especially, say, like Perfect Chaos's model as well. That's where a real major difference between the GameCube and Dreamcast version is. But especially with like Sonic Adventure DX, and of course the Xbox Live and Steam releases, yeah, there are some functionality issues there too. Scripted events that don't quite work the way they're supposed to. It's safe to say that, yeah, these games are due a little bit of love, whether they take a more extreme approach or something a bit more moderate. So, let's talk about those approaches then. And we're gonna start on the extreme end of things with a total modernization. And I think this is the obvious one that a lot of people have in mind. Remake the games entirely and bring them graphically in line with games like Shadow Generations or Sonic Unleashed, or go for something even better than that, maybe make it in Unreal or Unity Engine. I think Unleashed's art style would be a really great candidate for the environments, but I personally wouldn't want to lose the anime look of the NPCs. But yeah, just the whole approach here would be making it look like a modern AAA game. Something Sega are yet to really even do with even their recent releases. And given that they'd most definitely be aiming to release this on whatever Nintendo's latest console is at the time that a Sonic Adventure remake would release, they would probably have to get a little less ambitious with the visuals. In the process of modernizing things, you'd probably have Ian Flynn or maybe a different writer rework the dialogue a bit to be less goofy and have the current Studiopolis voice cast redo the dialogue recordings. Possibly with remixed music in the process of kind of modernizing things. There's a lot of instances of synthetic orchestra in the Sonic Adventure titles that they could maybe go over with a full orchestra. The benefits to this is that this is kind of the direction that Sega are moving with Sonic aesthetics, so it makes sense to interpret the visuals of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 in this style. It will give it a great sense of cohesion with more recent releases, making it feel brand new. And it would also be a very modernized and approachable experience for newcomers. This would likely amount to kind of the best objective quality. And as it is, both of these games are full of animation goofs, especially the first one, where the whole animation workflow for Sonic Adventure 1 was very, very primitive. This would be a chance to really update the animations, making these games taken a little more seriously. However, I personally feel that this approach comes with some drawbacks too. It would feel wrong to overwrite the work of the previous voice actors in these roles, almost kind of like erasure of some of their greatest contributions to this franchise. Plus, a lot of the charm that makes up Sonic Adventure's cult classic status comes from the primitive look and feel of these games. For better or for worse, the goofiness makes up that identity. It's part of why people are drawn to these games all these years later. to make up for that, the presentation would have to provide a truly exceptional example of modern animation, and we're yet to really see that achieved in the Sonic franchise. And because this would be such a radical departure, being effectively a brand new game, it would make it all the more necessary to make the earlier versions of Sonic Adventure readily available. Because it's not just objective qualities that are getting reworked here. Aspects like voice cast and art direction are going to be a toss-up as far as preference goes. Personally, this one isn't ideal in my opinion. I'm not massive on the notion of homogenizing every single modern Sonic release, and the Sonic Adventure titles do have a look that I don't think I'd be too willing to sacrifice. So, on the other extreme, this is a much more conservative extreme, creatively speaking. Leave it alone, just aim for total preservation. I think the most important thing about a Sonic Adventure revisitation is just getting these games back out there again. Making them readily available for modern consoles. Simply re-release the 2 Sonic Adventure games. You can get them on Xbox and Steam, and that's it really. And the versions you can get on there are pretty shoddy, especially for Sonic Adventure 1. I would happily pay full price to have these games on my Switch, so I could play them on the go. But it stinks that these ports are the most current and accessible version of these games. They are the buggiest versions, and they just kinda don't look very good. So here's what I'm suggesting. Better SADX is a mod for the PC version of Sonic Adventure that allows you to play the game in full frame 16:9 at higher resolutions than before, 60 FPS with numerous bug fixes that bring the game more in line with the Dreamcast version both functionally and graphically, fixing up certain scripted events, and restoring some of Sonic Adventure's more dynamic lighting from the Dreamcast version. This also comes with the option of playing the game with Dreamcast or GameCube aesthetics, as yes, the Dreamcast and GameCube versions of the game did have different character models, and that is kinda divisive. All of these features would be perfect for a re-release of Sonic Adventure. That's all I really need, and yeah, have a menu where I can select which character models I'm gonna go with. I personally am always gonna go for the Dreamcast version because Sonic's character model in the Dreamcast version is shaped like a friend. That being said, even with better SADX enabled, there is still some jank to work through on both of the Sonic Adventure games. I think Big the Cat's fishing needs to just be a lot more intuitive. Just reeling in the fish is kind of a mystery that isn't communicated very well. That and how the changing camera angles can really mess with the controls, particularly in the Hall of Mirrors in Amy's Twinkle Park stage. It just feels abrupt and unintuitive. You could get used to it, but I don't think you should have to. And that's the real drawback here. For as great as these games are, there are definitely aspects that would alienate contemporary audience beyond just the primitive presentation. While not ideal, I would just be happy to see these games get released with the enhancements of, say, better SADX. But there is, in my opinion, a better option. On the more balanced end of the scale, a refined version. So, kinda spinning off from the previous entry, there is just re-releasing the games as is, albeit with the enhancements of better SADX for Sonic Adventure 1, which, to be honest, I would accept, provided it's not advertised as a full-on remaster or re-release. And then there's this slightly different approach, which would be just going in to smooth a few things out. There's stuff I already mentioned for Sonic Adventure 1, but for 2, things like making the light dash more responsive, the homing attack a bit more reliable, a drop shadow on enemies that fall from the sky so they don't blindside you so much, and maybe make improvements to Knuckles and Rouge's treasure radars. Make the Big the Cat fishing story optional in Sonic Adventure 1, so it's no longer required for you to unlock the final story. But make it rewarding. Have it so that you can unlock more skins for the characters, be it maybe like Sonic Jam-style classic skins. Another idea I thought of was, you know how like you can get a shadow onesie for Sonic in Sonic Superstars? Maybe have it so that every fish you catch gives Sonic a fish onesie, where his head is basically poking out of the mouth hole of the fish. Here's a drawing I did to kind of show off how that would look. That way there's still like an incentive to actually play Big's fishing. By just making slight functionality refinements, I think you'd get a worthy re-release of these games where nothing would really be lost in translation, and I'd definitely like this over the aforementioned modernized remake. And given that these games can be modded, I'd say this is perfectly possible, right? I mean, I don't know much about game design, but we'll see. Someone in the comments will let me know how this works. And then finally, here's my idea for the retro remake. This being a slightly more balanced option, but still kind of ambitious. So it's a from-the-ground-up remake, like the modernization, complete with polished functionality and gameplay mechanics. But you really embrace Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 as retro classics. Like how Sonic Origins remade the classics in the retro engine but didn't mess with the aesthetics aside from some small additional animations, the Sonic Adventure remakes could do a similar thing. But really lean into these games' retro status, embracing low poly as an art style, while tidying things up a bit with high-resolution textures and more modern lighting engine. So rather than looking primitive, bound by technical limitations, you can pay homage to that look in a tasteful way. Particularly when it comes to the first game, some of the jankier animations could be reinterpreted in fun new ways that retain the sincerity. Remember how Sonic's running animation would sometimes start up before he actually started moving in cutscenes? Maybe make that look deliberate, like he's charging up on the spot. Not getting rid of some of the silly charm of the original, but instead reinterpreting it to be deliberate. Keep those silly idle animations where the characters look like they're panting and how Sonic's ears move all over his face when he talks. It's precious, and I really wouldn't want to lose that in a modernized translation. That, of course, doesn't mean that every single bit of Sonic Adventure's jank needs to be reinterpreted. Particularly in Sonic Adventure 1, I'd say completely overhaul Dr. Robotnik's animations, especially in his face. These aren't charming, they're just bad. For Sonic Adventure 2, things get a bit more interesting, as the game was clearly trying to go for a cooler aesthetic. I did consider cohesion between these two, but I think there's merit to a little variety, as Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 do have two very distinct visual identities from one another. Sonic Adventure 2 is a far more urban and grungy game, and I think they could continue with the retro vibe but reinterpret it here. Pirate King Luigi did an incredible recreation of Sonic Adventure 2's opening animation in Blender that gives the characters a heavily Iwakawa-inspired look, but with slightly crunchy pixelated qualities to it. Something like this would be an excellent way to bring a timeless quality to Sonic Adventure 2's look, in a way that would really suit the game. Although I do get it, there is a case to be made for going for something just a little less radical. Animation-wise, Sonic Adventure 2 was quite a step up from Adventure 1, so I think less really needs to be done with this one. But if you're going to take the retro sensibilities of Sonic Adventure and reinterpret them, I think it would be great to do the same and put in the same amount of care and love for Sonic Adventure 2, and I think kind of going at this with a brand new approach, like what Pirate King Luigi's animation does, this would actually be a really good and artistic way to go. But at the same time, I would still be cool with a grassroots recreation of this one's look, complete with the quality of life improvements that I suggested for Sonic Adventure 1, such as dynamic lighting, ray tracing, and high-resolution textures. In this remake as well, voice lines would just be left alone, as would be the music. Just making improvements to things like audio timing, lip sync, and audio mixing. Could even have a mode that restores the crap audio timing and audio mixing, just as like a gag. To me, I think this would be the best possible version of the Sonic Adventure remakes. It would give the games a timeless quality to really embrace them as retro games, and would mean that they wouldn't be due yet another remake several years down the line when technology has advanced further. Because that's the problem, if you're re-releasing things to make them look current, well, current doesn't stay current. Re-release it to look retro, and, well, retro's always going to be retro. It would also be cool to have a full-on remake, though, as opposed to just a remaster or a touch-up, because this would mean that you would have an updated version of Sonic Adventure's gameplay engine that you could use for further titles, and I think ultimately this is what we need to move back in the direction of. Sonic Frontiers is a great game with a great version of Sonic to play as, but whenever I think of ways to improve that gameplay style, it really just amounts to make it more like Sonic Adventure. Just, of course, with the combat, because I love the combat. But, of course, I do think that if Sega are making remakes of Sonic Adventure as opposed to remasters, then it's still important for them to make the original versions of these games readily available for modern consoles too. Again, I would happily pay full price for Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 on the Nintendo Switch. Provided I have the money, of course. But if I have the money, I'll pay it. Patreon and Ko-Fi links in the description below. Help me afford the Sonic Adventure remakes when they come out. Shameless. I like what you've done with your hair, by the way. Looking fresh. But that brings me to the question. Do we even need Sonic Adventure remakes? Sega have been really kind of flirting with the notion of Sonic Adventure remakes for decades now. Issues aside, Sonic 06 pays a great deal of homage to Sonic Adventure in its playstyle, and Wave Ocean could pass for a form of remake of Emerald Coast. Not to mention the egg carrier being recreated for this title as well. We did see various elements of Sonic Adventure get brought up to date in this title, even if they are a little jank. By which I mean very jank, much jankier than they were before. Sonic Generations features recreations of Speed Highway, City Escape, the Perfect Chaos Battle, the Shadow the Hedgehog boss fight, giving us glimpses of how updated versions of these would look. And just taking a look at Shadow Generations here, we're running through a gorgeous modern recreation of the Space Colony arc and Radical Highway, battling against the Bio Lizard. Like, we've already got a huge chunk of what these would probably be right here in these titles. But it doesn't stop there. Sonic Dream Team brought out elements of Sonic Adventure's gameplay in that you had your kind of A to B high-speed levels akin to Sonic stages in Sonic Adventure. You had hunting for shards akin to Knuckles stages in Sonic Adventure, and then you had races against the clock akin to Tails' stage in Sonic Adventure. Pair that with very open-ended level design, 3 playstyles shared between 6 characters just like Sonic Adventure 2, and while it is very much a boost game, it still has a lot of elements of the Sonic Adventure titles, and I do think this makes Hardlight a great candidate for the development team of a Sonic Adventure revival project. And if you want to hear how redone music would probably sound for Sonic Adventure remakes, well, they're all over YouTube. And I don't just mean fan remixes either. I'm talking about the collaborations that Jun Senoue has made with T. Lopes on the Sonic social media page, as well as, of course, the Sonic Adventure music experience, which revisits a lot of the iconic tracks of the Sonic Adventure titles. But perhaps the biggest backdoor adventure remake I can think of is Sonic Frontiers. Sonic Frontiers pulls so much from Sonic Adventure that when the game first came out, I joked that this might as well be called Sonic Adventure 1-2. In that it feels like more of a sequel to Sonic Adventure 1 than Sonic Adventure 2 did. You've got a plot revolving around water people. Water people supposedly devolved into little round fellas. Coco, Chow parallels there. Open ruins to scamper around. Sonic has a move that causes him to glow blue. I know that one's a reach, but still, I'm counting it. Flashbacks. Tails and Amy's arcs are very similar to their arcs in Sonic Adventure. There's an obnoxious pinball minigame that halts the progression dead in its tracks. The mirror puzzle on Aranos Island is very similar to the ones in Lost World in Sonic Adventure. The playable character roster includes Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Amy, and while you don't play as him, Big the Cat gets a fishing game mode. The plot involves Eggman's latest exceptional creation grappling with its own sentience, eventually blowing itself up. There are shooting stages, and in one of them you play as a mech. You race against Tails in some of these Final Horizon cyberspace acts, complete with a similar radar to let you know who's winning. These green dash rings for Tails make a comeback. Like, there is a lot of Sonic Adventure 1 here. It is the most Sonic Adventure 1 game since Sonic Adventure 1. Okay, 06 notwithstanding. But it doesn't just stop at Sonic Adventure inspiration. Sonic Adventure 2 gets some love in Sonic Frontiers as well. Sonic Adventure 2 stage layouts return in the cyberspace stages. But for some reason they decided to make them look like Green Hill and Chemical Plant this time around. Alright, fine, you know, Sega. The only thing about Sonic's past that actually matters these 2 fucking levels. Heroes and villains come together to face a planet-destroying threat. Tails' mech returns, although it sucks now. The primary antagonist sacrifices himself in space to save the world out of familial love. Although they kind of wrecked on that one. And Dr. Robotnik shoots a moon. This time for the greater good. And if for a second you think that any of this all piling up is coincidental, they go out of their way to lampshade these similarities in the dialogue at almost every turn. Sonic Frontiers is effectively a backdoor Sonic Adventure remake, bringing in a lot of elements from the Sonic Adventure games in service of a brand new title. It's why, despite its overall shoddy quality, it was viewed as a return to form for Sonic because it recaptured what made this franchise's jump to 3D so spectacular. Between Sonic Frontiers, Sonic Generations, and Shadow Generations, it kinda leaves the question, what's left to really do besides bring it all together? Many of the best moments of these games have been revisited already. Would fighting a remastered version of Perfect Chaos really hit the same when we've already had that in Sonic Generations? Would a remade BioLizard boss fight hit the same when we already had that in Shadow Generations? I think what Sega are ultimately doing here is kind of drip feeding us enough remade Sonic Adventure series content to keep us satiated while never truly pulling the trigger. If Sonic Team carry forward ingredients of the Adventure series, but use them to make brand new games, that's a truly great thing. But just because Sonic Mania recreated various levels from the classic series, that didn't render the Sonic Origins remakes obsolete. To see these events within the context of those stories would still mean something and still matter. And these are truly fantastic games that it would be great to bring to new players. At the very least, I think a form of re-release is in order. I don't think we outright need remakes, but I think we need better versions of these games than the ones that are currently readily available on modern consoles. But personally, I don't think total modernization is the way to go. I personally would go for the retro approach. But what do you guys think? Do you think they should remake the Sonic Adventure games, or maybe just remaster or re-release them? What approaches do you think Sonic Team should take? What's to be done about Big the Cat? And do you think that Sonic Frontiers was a backdoor adventure remake in any way? Comment below, discuss, and as always, if you've enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit subscribe, hit the like button, and consider checking out my Patreon page, where for as little as $1 a month, you can get your name in the credits of these videos, with a special shout out going to the patrons in the $5 and above tier. They are RT0, Calex, Hypes, Sad Goku, Dare Denny, SSS06, Kale Bennett, Ken K, Dazzle Fizzle, I've sent my evil clone to find some helium, Cirrus the Skeptic, Biotin, oh no, I've used up all the helium, what am I meant to do now? And Vera Wild. Thank you folks so much for your generosity, and to those of you at home, thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Now, get out of here, young buck.